Hey, so the other day I went out and I gathered some pressed flowers. She gathered pressed flowers? Did she find them laying around outside or what? That seems strange. Does she even know what a pressed flower is? No, I did not gather some pressed flowers. That would be silly. I gathered some flowers to press, and I brought them inside and I pressed them. And now I'm ready to use them in some artwork. So you may have seen my video on the flowers that I pressed, and I told you 3 different ways to press your flowers. So I want to use those pressed flowers in some artwork, and I think pressed flowers are they're a fun way to bring the outside into your paper, and it's an easy way to add an artistic look to anything. And it's an absolutely great way to make a free gift. Now, I don't know about you, but I love making gifts for people. One, I put time and effort into it, so it tells that person that I love them. And secondly, it is going to save me a little bit of money. And let me tell you a secret. I'm all about saving money here and there. I mean, I don't want to be a cheapo or anything, but at the same time, gifts are expensive. So, all that to say, if you want to use any of these ideas for a little gift, I won't tell a soul how much it costs. We could even pretend like it cost you something. I mean, I guess it's going to cost you just a little bit for your glue, but I mentioned how I buy my glue at the dollar store, and it works perfectly fine. And you get 2 in a pack, so you pay 50 cents for a whole bottle of glue, and we're only using a small amount out of that bottle of glue, so you're paying just a few cents for the amount of glue that you're using today. And if you need some paper, then whatever you spend on paper would be your other expense. But otherwise, this is a very frugal way to make something for somebody. I love to write either their name on it or a fun little quote or a Bible verse or an inspiring message. So in the projects that I do, I will write something on mine. That is totally optional. You can arrange your pressed flowers in a fun way. I've seen people make art out of them where they use the pressed flower as the center of a butterfly or the part of a bee or something like that. You could do something like that. You could do lots of different things. But today I'm going to focus on making a gift for somebody, and I think it's just an awesome thing that you can mail to somebody, which in these times of separation from everyone else, I've been finding it really fun to mail things to people. So I hope you enjoyed today's video and have a lot of fun creating your pressed flower artwork. Try to say that 3 times fast. Pressed flower artwork. That's kind of hard. Anyways, I hope you have fun. So step 1 of this pressed art flower thing is to find where you put your pressed flowers. Now, if you remember, in my last video, I pressed them 3 different ways. I pressed them using a book, I also pressed them in the microwave, and using an iron. And at the end of the last video, I compared the 3 different ways. The book method, in my opinion, definitely left the flowers more beautiful and colorful. The microwave method left them more brown, and the iron method kind of left an in-between. I prefer the book method. 1 is the easiest in my opinion with the least amount of labor. You just put the flowers in the parchment paper and you put the paper into the book and stack a bunch of books on it and let it be for 7 to 10 days and you're golden. Where the others required a little bit more labor intensive work. Because I like the look of the flowers from the book method the best, all of my flowers today I'll be using from the book. The hardest part about the book method is finding where you put all the flowers. So it might be a good idea to keep track of how many flowers you pressed, like a number or something like that. That makes it the easiest to know, hey, I have 21 flowers in this book or something like that. Otherwise, you might find a random flower in years to come when you're reading the book. So I'm comparing the 3 different types of flower pressing here. On the far right is the one that was pressed in a book. In the middle is the iron, and on the far left there is the ones that I use the microwave for. As you can see, they're kind of brittle and brown and not very pretty. So I would not use the microwave method unless you're absolutely desperate. The iron one would be a good way if you forgot to press in a book and you need to quickly do it because it does preserve some of the color, but at least with the book method you get absolutely beautiful results. So the second step of this project is to decide what you will do with your flowers. The first thing I am going to do is I'm going to make a greeting card. I first take a piece of cardstock and I cut it in half, so that way I have 2 pieces of paper that are 5.5 inches wide, and I fold them in half, and so that way I end up with 2 greeting cards if I wanted to make 2 different greeting cards. Grab some pens, and I'm just going to write a little note since this is a greeting card. And so I decided on the words, just a little hello, and I tried to do that in a nice looking cursive writing. And then you take your different leaves or your different flowers and you arrange them around, and you want to get the arrangement before you start gluing. So, you play around with what leaves or flowers you have available and figure out what you like. Once you figure out what you like, then leave them right where they are, and you want to grab some liquid glue and a little bit of water. Now, if you don't have any liquid glue, that is perfectly fine. I will give other options of things to use here in a little bit, but I just want to explain how to use the liquid glue first. I'm going to take my liquid glue, which by the way I picked up from the dollar store, and it comes in a 2-pack from the dollar store, so it's literally 50 cents for this big old thing of liquid glue. And you only need a small amount, so I just pour a little bit into this dish, which is an awesome dish that was a teacher gift from one of my foreign exchange students, so I thank you so much, my dear friend. I love that little dish. And I take a little bit of water. I'm just using a little dropper to keep it nice and clean. I don't want to accidentally spill water in my work surface, but I put about 3 or 4 dropperfuls of water into my liquid glue, and then I am going to grab a paintbrush and I'm just going to stir it real quick. And the only reason that I am putting the water into the liquid glue is to make it even more liquidy. So you want the liquid glue nice and runny. Another option is if you have Mod Podge. Some people use that for crafting, and if you have that at your house, you could use that instead of the liquid glue with water mixed in. So now you want to remove 1 leaf at a time, paint the back of the leaf with your liquid glue, and then you pick up the leaf and you flip it over and put it onto the paper where you wanted it. And you want to work through doing this to 1 leaf at a time. Once you have your leaves or your flowers arranged on your paper or all glued down, then you want to take your liquid glue with your paintbrush and just paint over the leaves or flowers. Now, you can paint the entire surface of the paper, but if you're not working with cardstock or heavy paper, I would not suggest doing that, simply because it'll cause your paper to wrinkle a lot. Speaking of paper that will wrinkle, for this next project I'm going to use just a regular piece of paper. And I'm going to make a little sign that I'm going to give to my mom as a gift sometime. So that it doesn't wrinkle, what I did was I taped it down using masking tape, and I just taped it right down to a clipboard that I own, and that way I can let it dry on the clipboard and it helps it not wrinkle. I'm going to write down a little verse that I like from the book of Philippians, and I'm writing that in my cursive with my brush pen. I mean, of course, if you do not have a brush pen, do not worry. You can use a regular Crayola marker and write in nice, neat cursive, and it will look very similar to using a brush pen. How you get it to look similar is just whenever you are going down on the letters, like, first for a T, you go up, you round, you come down. On the downward stroke of letters, you press a little bit harder with a Crayola marker, and you'll get it to look like a brush pen. I've done it before, and it just takes a tiny bit of practice, not even that much practice. So on a scrap piece of paper, before writing out your sign, you would want to practice how to use a Crayola marker to make it look like a brush pen, if you don't have a brush pen. And then you can write out your message. After you finish writing out your message, then you want to again arrange your flowers around your message. Then you again are going to pick up 1 leaf or flower at a time, put glue on the back, and then place it back where you would like the leaf or flower to sit. After that, you go through and you just add a little bit of glue to the top and then set it out to dry. I do want to mention that if you don't have a brush to spread your glue around, you could just use your finger. It works fine. Just make sure you get the glue spread nice and thin. The next project, I am not going to use any glue at all. I'm using double-sided tape to temporarily hold the leaves in place or the flowers, but you could also use stick glue to do that if you don't have double-sided tape. And then I will go over everything with packing tape to make sure that it stays in place. If you want to make a bookmark, the size that I used for this, I cut my paper and I cut it to be 2 inches by 6 inches long. And these bookmarks make great gifts. I'll actually make a couple here, and I'm going to put them in the mail and send them away for some gifts for some people that I'm missing. So if you have some folks out there that you're missing, then this is a great way to let them know I'm thinking about you. Once you get the tape on the bookmark, you want to press it out really nice and good so that it's nice and smooth and there's no air pockets in the tape, so that it almost looks like you laminated your bookmark. And then after you do that, you peel it up off of your table and you want to put tape on the back side so that way it is completely encased in the tape. Next, you're going to cut any extra tape off. Then if you have a hole punch, you can do this next step. If not, you can just call your bookmark completed. I did not actually have a hole punch, but I had like a tiny hole punch. I know, weird. I owned a tiny hole punch. So I decided to use that and put a tiny hole in my bookmark. And this is going to be for a string, because it's always nice to have string on your bookmark so that you know exactly where it is in your book. So I just grabbed some yarn. I twist it a little bit to get it through the hole, and then I just stick it through the hole and tie a knot in it. And since my piece of paper cut easily into 4 little bookmarks, I decided, why not? I'm going to go ahead and make a couple of these. Now you may be wondering what to do if you do not have tape, if you do not have glue. Well, this last option is the no tape, no glue option. You can grab a picture frame that you have and arrange your items inside the picture frame. So you would just place the flowers in whatever order you would want, or the leaves in whatever order you would want. Then you put the backing onto the frame, and then you can hang it. Now, if your frame is like mine where the backing doesn't look so pretty, I would suggest putting just a plain piece of paper in behind this, and it'll hold without any tape or anything, just through the pressure of the frame. Now, while we were working, I had this one that I had made with the Versa on it drying, and it's time for the tape to come off, so I wanted to show you what it would look like if it was framed, because I do plan to frame it when I give it to my mom. So I made sure before I did the project that I made it the size of the frame. Alright, so there you have it. You could make a bookmark, you could make something to hang in a frame, you could make a card. The possibilities are really endless with pressed flowers, and it adds a really fun look to your art project. So I hope you have a lot of fun creating this art.